right. What is up, sports fans? I am Jason Burgos, editor for Sportsnaut.com, and I am joined by a fellow editor at the site in the very talented Andrew Buller-Russ to talk the NFL offseason so far, winners, losers, surprises, and even what's still to come. Andrew, thank you for joining me and forming this very handsome representation of Sportsnaut.com. Thank you for this.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Now, a lot to talk about. A lot has happened in the NFL offseason, which is still early days. Like technically, the free agency has only been going on for like a couple weeks, even though the new year is only a couple weeks old. But there's been a ton of things happening before and after March 16th. Of course, quarterbacks are the glamour position in the NFL. A lot of movement, a lot of big names moved. We had Russell Wilson, we had Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, not a big name, Deshaun Watson. Big quarterbacks traded. Going into those four guys, which team do you feel made the best acquisition? Like, who really got better in terms of the Broncos, the Colts, the Commanders, and the Browns with those acquisitions?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say the Indianapolis Colts, just because they didn't have to give up much to get Matt Ryan. And considering they had Carson Wentz the year before, not terrible, but it's just Matt Ryan's a little more experienced, a little more calculated. I think he can, take them at least to the playoffs, which that's, the stage they're trying to get to. Obviously, Russell Wilson is a huge acquisition. That's wonderful, but they had to give up a little bit more to make it happen. But yeah, I don't know. Denver, Indianapolis. We'll see what happens with the Browns and Watson. Obviously, when he plays, he's great, but we'll see.
Is that a weird thing? Like, because he may miss a decent amount of time. Does that like automatically kind of drop them behind the Broncos and the Colts in terms of it being a good move because they're not going to get this guy? And this isn't like baseball; it's a marathon, it's a ton of games. Missing 4 games, that's a lot of games from a season. Is that kind of make this move for them kind of less about this year and more about the year after, next year and the year after?
Yeah, I think you nailed it exactly. I mean, obviously they saw a chance to get a potential franchise quarterback, and they were kind of sick of what they had with Mayfield. So they made this move to maybe compete right away this year, but I think mostly they had their eye on the future.
Which team of the teams that gave up a really good franchise quarterback in a few of these situations do you think like did the best? Because that's always these are giving up major positions that are hard to fill, it's hard to find. As a Giants fan, I know it's how hard it is now that we've lost Manning. Jets fans, oh my God, the struggle they know about finding it. You as a Vikings fan, it's not easy. Which team, in terms of the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Texans finally trading Deshaun Watson, in terms of what they got back, which teams really got a fair value that they can go make some interesting moves and try at least be competitive next year and the year after?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not competitive this year, but I'd say Houston Texans, just because they do have Davis Mills, who they like a lot. They may not have a lot around him right now, but they have a lot of assets that they can build with. I don't know if the rest of the teams, Seattle, Atlanta, they're kind of stuck without a whole lot of talent too. So, I mean, Seattle has a good receiving core, don't get me wrong, but Drew Lock, is that their guy? We'll find out.
And what that's a tough thing too, because we've done articles on Sportsnaut about either of those guys trading. I mean, which of those two, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who do you think goes first? Because we've seen some big wide receivers traded, but in terms of Metcalf and Lockett, who do you think's more tradable, more likely to be moved first by the Seahawks?
Yeah, I'd say more likely to be traded would be Lockett, just because, I mean, everybody wants DK Metcalf. But he's kind of the young piece. And I mean, if the Seahawks want to turn this thing around quick, then they're going to try to hold on to their young pieces and, their core members and stay on that kind of youth timeline. If they don't want to compete right away or if they don't feel they can. But Lockett, I say, just because he's a veteran, maybe he doesn't like where it's headed in Seattle, and maybe he just wants to go compete right away.
And I'm glad, going back to the quarterbacks, that you mentioned the Colts. You know, they did well in this thing, because I'm sure a lot of people will look at, oh, Russell Wilson, the Broncos. The Broncos have some good pieces already. They should be contender. Of those teams that added somebody, let's just push the Browns out of there just again because they're gonna not maybe have Watson for a bunch of games. Of the Colts and Broncos, maybe not seriously, but just between those two, which one is the likeliest to maybe really be a contender? Maybe they won't get the Super Bowl, but they have the strongest shot between those two, is adding those quarterbacks.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think both can be a contender, but as far as, if we're talking the Lombardi, then I'd say the Broncos. They already had a strong defense last year. They added to that with getting Randy Gregory on the edge, and then offensively, I mean, they still have all those weapons from Judy to Cortland Sutton to Tim Patrick, and they lost Fant, but Alberto is solid tight end. So I don't know. I think Russell Wilson's going to hit the ground running. He's going to get cooking, and just might see him in the Super Bowl.
Which, it was a weird situation with the Browns, because those other teams, they needed a quarterback. The Colts moved Wentz, but they needed a quarterback even when they had Wentz. Broncos needed a quarterback and stuff like that. But the Browns had a quarterback. Not to say Baker Mayfield is a superstar, but he's better than what I think the Giants have and what the Jets have. He's a competent quarterback. That maybe there's still upside with him. What do you think about their handling of that whole situation of jumping into the negotiations for Browns? Still had him, looked like they were out of it. They kind of like, this guy wants to trade. They say no, all these things. And then even how they're handling it now in terms of still holding on to Mayfield at a pretty big cap hit. What do you think of the overall thoughts of how the Browns have handled this and getting already a player that's a messy situation unto himself?
Yeah, you kind of said it. It's been a mess from the start. I mean, here we were probably 3-4 months ago and thinking that Baker Mayfield would be a bona fide starter with the Browns, and now here we are a few months later, and it's like, man, is he even going to start anywhere? He probably will end up somewhere, but right now it's not looking good, and it's just hard to believe that the Browns couldn't have gotten some value for him already, but maybe with the Watson situation, how complex it was and just how quickly it all seemed to come together, maybe that's why they didn't, you don't want to not have a quarterback, especially since they feel they have a roster that can compete. But I don't know. Honestly, it seems like they've kind of botched the situation, but without knowing how trade negotiations go and who's interested and what they'd want to offer up for his $18 million salary or whatever, it's tough stuff.
And I feel, and it's funny, there's been the stories and reports that a lot of people feel Baker Mayfield needs to be humbled and stuff like that. I feel bad for him in a way because of the whole situation and whatnot. But one, he reportedly, the Colts were his top choice, isn't going there. Obviously, which team out there do you think that has the chips, that has a reason to invest in a trade like this, would make the most fit? Should maybe the Browns, call the 49ers or something like that? Well, not the 49ers, but are the Dolphins set with Tua? The Panthers obviously need him, but he doesn't clearly want to go there. There's not a lot of options. Where would Baker Mayfield fit right now, and with a team that actually does really need him?
Yeah, that's another great question. For some reason, Atlanta comes to mind, even though they've signed Marcus Mariota, and that's a connection with Arthur Smith, their head coach from their Tennessee days. But on the other hand, what weapons do they have for him? I mean, Pitts is going to be incredible. Yeah. But for Baker's best perspective, I guess, if I'm Baker, I probably do want to go to the Panthers. I mean, they at least have a receiving core. They have Christian McCaffrey. They have some defensive pieces that are young. If I'm Baker, I'd want to go to Carolina. But I mean, if I'm Carolina, do I want to trade more compensation for a quarterback who's kind of down right now? When they just did that with Darnold, that didn't work. I don't know. They might be looking for rookies.
Yeah, no, fair. I mean, along with the quarterbacks, a lot of wide receiver movement. A couple of them really unexpected. We had Adams traded, Tyreek Hill traded, which was a shocker. Amari Cooper moved, and we also had just good signings of free agents. Allen Robinson to the Rams, DJ Clark to the Jags. Which of course the big ones is Adams and Hill. Of those two, I guess I can't say, I can't ask necessarily which is more shocking. Clearly, it's Tyreek Hill that was stunning, and Adams was a possibility with the whole franchise tag and everything like that. I guess I'll ask instead: Are the Raiders a contender now with Adams, or at the very least, should the expectation now that they added him be to at least win the division?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say they're definitely contenders now. I mean, you'd like to think with that roster, yeah, win the division, but then you're talking about the AFC West, and that's like, oh, okay, that might be the best division in football.
Yep.
So yeah, you want to win the division, and yeah, they were in the playoffs last year, but they changed everything. They've got a new head coach, new GM, and they brought in some pieces. I mean, Devontae, Chandler Jones. I don't know. I think they are a contender. It's just they have some stiff competition with Mahomes and Herbert, Chargers, and now Russell Wilson with the Broncos. So should be fun.
Which offense, though, do you think takes the bigger hit from this loss? Is it because I've seen some people say that a lot of the really big moments Patrick Mahomes had and his big highlights is because he threw the ball at Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill, made big plays out of it. And then you think, okay, Rodgers is Rodgers. Maybe he's a guy that can supersede a lack of quarterbacks. Which offense, in terms of the Packers and Chiefs, lose more? Are they going to have a bigger problem to fill that void of losing Hill and Adams?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question too, because Rodgers, I mean, you'd like to think he always wants receivers, but he maybe doesn't need them. Like he can just kind of put the ball wherever the heck he wants. Like he can throw that thing on a dime, So.
Let's be real. They'd probably win if we were the wide receivers. Let's be real.
maybe. We might be on the bench a lot, but but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that the Packers lose a lot. Obviously, they have the draft here, so they're gonna address that position for sure. And the Chiefs, I mean, yeah, Tyreek is a weapon. You really can't compare anybody to Tyreek. He has speed that nobody else has, and he's polished too,
Yeah.
But the Chiefs, I mean, yeah, they still have Kelsey, and they've at least replenished it with Juju and Valdez-Scantling, and they also have the draft. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the Chiefs have lost as much, but they definitely don't have that same deep threat like the chemistry they had with Tyreek. But maybe Scantling can be that. So it's fascinating. I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
One person, and I did one of my articles in terms of like filling a void and what could the Chiefs do and stuff like that. No, I think the Chiefs and Packers, but one of the big prospects in the draft was Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, and very polished, very skilled, put up a lot of stats, along with being a game changer in speed. He finished 7th in the 40-yard dash in his combine. Is he a guy that maybe the Packers or the Chiefs kind of should mortgage some draft picks if they need to move up, or if they're in that range that he's projected? Is that a guy that could maybe fill that void? Does he have that potential to maybe be a Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill for either of those teams that they want to take that chance?
Yeah, I definitely think he can step in and be that right away. I mean, yeah, going to Ohio State, he got a lot of great coaching.
Yeah.
As far as, yeah, I mean, if the Chiefs or Packers should move up for him, that's tricky. It's a receiver deep draft. I mean, obviously they know more about him than we do with talking to him and all that, but I don't know if I'd really trade up for a receiver in this time. I mean, not from where they are. If it's a couple picks, sure, it's get your guy. But other than that, they might be able to just stay put and still get a day one contributor in the 20s there. But we'll see.
Which free agent pickup so far? There's been a ton of them. There's been so much movement, as there always is now. But is there any of them that really stand out for you as like, damn, that was a really good pick? Like just yesterday, like I think was Bobby Wagner to the Rams. Like that's a good player to go to a championship team. That's a great addition for them. That or is there any free agent signing so far? They're like, damn, that's a good move. They got a lot better from that. And maybe it doesn't even have to be a big name. It could just maybe be not a star, but just a good player.
Yeah, I think Mike Lewinsky. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to go for your Giants there. No, that's a good signing. But no, Von Miller with the Bills, because I think that came out of nowhere, and the Bills have needed a premier pass rusher for a while now, and now Von Miller can join a playoff contender, and he can go teach their young pass rushers there. So I think that's a great signing. I mean, I don't know, he's going to fit in well in Buffalo.
Is there one that, because a lot of people were kind of iffy about some of the Jaguars signings when they jumped right in. Is there a signing, maybe it's them, that was like, what the hell are you guys doing? I mean, what are you doing? It's ridiculous. Was there any signing that was honestly just deserves a stupid penalty signing?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it once again. The Jaguars, like Christian Kirk. I don't know what they were doing. I mean, you pay this guy what 18 million per season for Christian Kirk. I think the most yards he's gotten is like 900 something, and I don't. He's not going to be a number one receiver. He might not even be a number two receiver. I don't know. I think you should have paid that much to him. They did good by bringing additions in, but be careful how much you're spending.
Is it dangerous? Because it seems like the only smart players that you can really invest in, or honestly kind of need to invest in, is quarterback and pass rusher, an elite pass rusher like Aaron Donald or something like that. TJ Watt. But is there a danger in these teams investing these huge contracts that Hill got, huge contracts that Adams got? Is there a danger in doing that it can come back and bite them? Or that's kind of the luxury of the NFL, that it's like these short guarantees that are really only for 2 years, and it's like a 6-year deal that's really only 2 year, and then we can cut you. Was there any risk at any of those kind of big deals that Adams or Hill got, or they make sense? That's the way the league works, and everything's kind of just a 2-year plan.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both. I mean, on some levels, there's some risk. You never know. You could sign a guy and maybe he gets hurt, and then you don't get anything for your value.
Yep.
You just paying him to sit on the bench. But on the other half, it's not really that risky, just because, I mean, the salary cap spiking. It didn't spike as much this year, but in the future, it's going to continue spiking. And so 30 million sounds asinine right now, but 2-3 years from now, it's going to be 40 mil or 50, who knows. So it's every time a top player signs a new deal, they're the top paid. So you got to pay good talent, if you want to bring it in, and that's what we saw the Dolphins and Raiders do.
And I think that's the beauty of the NFL and why it's such a popular sport. There isn't a Russell Westbrook and a John Wall making $44 million for like another season that you have to pay them and can't cut them. And going back to the idea of quarterbacks, beyond the big names that were traded, Teddy Bridgewater went to the Dolphins, Marcus Mariota, Falcons, you mentioned, Trubisky to the Steelers. Of those three, who do you think can make an impact this year? Like, can Bridgewater maybe outwork Tua? Who's the guy that out of those signings that actually might be a difference maker and maybe help that team be competitive?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I like Teddy B, but I don't know. I do believe that Tua can take the stronghold on the competition there. I mean, hopefully it's not even a competition for him. Hopefully he just takes it from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will be a competition, I should say. But anyway, I'd go with Trubisky on the Steelers. Obviously, they saw something in him that they valued. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe his years with Matt Nagy were just that was what was bad. I mean, I don't know. He was a top 5 pick for a reason. Sure, they might have reached or traded up, whatever. But there's still something in there. There's still a skill set that maybe has some potential in it. And playing in a run-heavy offense like the Steelers are expected to operate, I don't know. I think Trubisky can have some success, but he's probably going to face some competition too. I think they might take a quarterback, but we'll see.
Mm. And I agree with you 1,000%. Like, I did a couple articles on Trubisky and stuff. Like, they didn't know a ton about him until I did the articles. But I mean, this is a guy that his stats, like, yeah, I know he wasn't spectacular and stuff like that, but he went to 1 Pro Bowl. His stats aren't terrible. Like, suffice to say, I hate having the Giants frustration drum hit on that all the time. But he's a Daniel Jones. He doesn't have like a ton of turnovers and just a fumble machine. Like, he actually has more touchdowns than interception by a good amount, has wins. So yeah, I think with that kind of coaching staff for Tomlin, like that might be the sleeper steal of the free agents. Going again to quarterback, Colin Kaepernick. That's been a story the last couple of weeks. It doesn't look like maybe he's not going to go to Seattle, even though Pete Carroll was kind of open, like, hey, this guy does need another chance. Not even where does he go? I think the big question I'm going to ask you is, does he play? Like, I've seen some things where people say he just does this idea of, oh yeah, I'm going to play, I'm going to do this, and maybe it's just a kind of a PR stunt for something he's working on or doing. In general, is he even playing in the league in 2022?
I wish I could say yes. I felt that, I felt that answer should be yes for a few years now,
Yeah.
but as every year goes on, his chances go down. I think he's maybe 33 now. I'm not sure. That's not too old to be a quarterback. Believe me, Brady's 40. But when you haven't done it, when you haven't faced competition, when you haven't been able to play against other pro competition for a few years, I mean, there's no doubt some of his skills have to have declined. That doesn't mean that he can't get them back if a team takes a chance on him and he can work them right back in training camp and preseason and all that. But it's just, I don't know, for teams just don't seem to want to take a chance on him. And I think it's ridiculous, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, it's a weird situation because not to say that he's not good, and he's definitely better than some of the options out there, but he was in the right kind of system, a system that played his strengths, kind of hit his weaknesses, and even then some of his weakness still showed up. So it's a weird thing, but yeah, even he's still better than 97% of the backups in the league. So at the very least, he should be a backup. But some of the big names still left in terms of like playmakers on the free agent market. Odell Beckham still there. I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed there a while longer. Julio Jones is an interesting name. I think he'd be a great pick to go back to the Colts. Him and Matt Ryan, maybe they can rekindle something a little interesting. Jarvis Landry and his reported $20 million asking price. We've got the very mercurial and unique Antonio Brown. I'll just go and focus on Beckham and Landry. Where do you think Beckham goes? And does Landry even get the $15 million that he made last year? Does he even get that value from another team?
Yeah, I mean, as far as Landry, I doubt it at this stage in his career, I guess. And plus just where we are in free agency. I mean, you don't frequently see too many large deals handed out this late.
Yep.
I mean, unless maybe Tyrann Mathieu could still get, I don't know, a solid contract, but safeties haven't really been drawing a whole lot of money either. So anyway, back to Landry. I don't know. I don't think he'll get that 15 million. He might have to settle for incentive heavy contract that settles in around 6 or 8 million or something like that. I mean, there's no doubt he can be a solid slot option, but he's not really a field stretcher. He's not a number one anymore. Well, I don't, So I don't know. He's got value for sure, but where that ends up, it's tough to say. And then Odell, where he's going to go, I mean, the Rams still seem interested, and for him, why not? They like him. He built chemistry with Stafford, and the staff likes him too. But if I'm Odell, I probably want to go somewhere where maybe I can get a few more targets in the offense once I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Where that is, I'm not sure right now, but I bet he wants to compete still. Just go somewhere that we can get another ring.
What do you think is the best fit? Rams, Chiefs, Packers for Odell. Is it going back to the Rams and that, familiarity that he had with them, and they helped him really kind of rekindle that all pro level of play? Or maybe is it the Chiefs and the Packers that do need a team? They have an elite world-class quarterback. If he's on a 1-year prove-it deal, hey, that's great offenses and quarterbacks to be with for a 1-year prove-it deal. What do you think of those three are the best fit for him?
Yeah, I guess if I'm Odell, I hate to say it, but I'd probably pick the Packers. Just because they don't really have that established receiving core yet, the 1, 2, 3. And I mean, that'll change after the draft. But I mean, the Chiefs, they've already committed to Juju and Valdez, and then the Rams, they have 3 receivers that are already probably ahead in the pecking order. Well, maybe 2 that are ahead in the pecking order for him. So if I'm Odell, I'm signing with Rodgers.
Last question. Draft coming up this month. At the end of the month, it's always a big deal. It's the biggest draft in sports. A lot of teams need to make changes. My Giants at least have 2 first-round picks. Hopefully they don't mess up both of them. Hopefully they get one right. Who in this, this draft coming up really needs to have a good draft? Like maybe they didn't have. I mean, the Giants are definitely one because they didn't do nothing. They did nothing in free agency. Who's a team that or 1 or 2, 3 teams that really could? They need a good draft. They need to get some fixes and some long-term players in this draft.
Yeah, I'd say the Jets are one team, and I mean they're in a good position too. I think they have 2 top 10 picks, just like your Giants, but they just don't have a lot of top, elite talent on that roster, and they don't even know if they have their guy with Wilson yet. So if they don't start getting some talent in there soon, they could be looking at a whole new regime change.
Yep.
And another team, they stay in New York, the Giants. I mean, kind of a similar story. I mean, you look at their roster, and do they have 3 elite players? Do they have anybody that's like a top 3 at their position? Like, I mean, it's tough. I don't know, the last, Gettleman, they didn't draft very well under his watch, but 2 top 10 picks. I mean, they can change that in a hurry. And I mean, if Daboll can get Daniel Jones turned around and get Saquon going and build the line and get Galladay to be productive and have Tony stay healthy for a year, I mean, they could turn it around fairly quickly. It's just they need to make sure that everything they've done this offseason is the right move. I mean, they can't keep going backwards. No playoff wins for 10 years, I think.
Yep.
Ouch.
All right, so to end it off here, Andrew, let them know where they can find you. Obviously, they can't find you on Twitter because you don't have Twitter. So where can they find you? Let them know all the information they need to know to look up your fantastic work on Sportsnaut.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, on Sportsnaut, really, my writer profile on there, that's where I do most of my work. And like you said, I'm not on social media too much. So yeah, just find me on Sportsnaut.
All right, for me, look me up on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, Jason Burgos MMA. I'm Jason Burgos. He's Andrew Buller-Russ. Until next time, everybody, bye-bye.